Bienvenida, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions, ffnquestions@gmail.com. But for Freeform Radio, my name is Daniel. Got today is Andy.
It's all good. We're here back, ready to rock your ears, I guess.
Hell yeah, man. It's a little earlier than usual, so I drank a cup of tea. It's starting to kick in. I think I'm gonna start ramping up soon, so maybe by the end I'm gonna be shouting, but we'll get it going. But hey, Andy, before we jump into the podcast, I had a few shout outs for some people that sent us likes and subscriptions
Nice.
to this great podcast of ours. The first one here is Crypto Cup 44. Thanks for that subscription and like. Mark Z, another like and subscription. Thanks. Operation X, really appreciate it. Cheap PPE products. Yeah, man, they're following us and gave us a quick like, man. So thanks a lot. Uh,
Uh,
huh.
Real quick, I know on YouTube we've been getting comments, which we get excited, but then we looked into it. It's people pushing adult sites that has nothing to do with Freeform Network. I'm guessing they're bots, but if somebody subscribes to that or signs up, let us know how the service is or if it's a scam. But we don't recommend you click any of those links because it's they're probably bots of somebody trying to steal your identity.
Well, you don't recommend it, but you don't advise people not to.
I'm telling them not to do it, but
Oh, you're saying not to, so
yeah.
just like
But if you
ignore it.
do, we would like to hear about your experience.
Oh, I thought you wouldn't care if people do it. You know, that's your prerogative if you want to or not. It's just that.
I'm gonna issue a mandate of
Oh, Jesus,
not
easy,
clicking
Biden.
on it, but you know, if you do, we want to hear about your experience.
All right. A couple more here. PG Naturals. Thanks a lot, man. Uh, Amiana. This one's weird. 707704BD0. That's a unique sign in there, but thank you. And then the last one here, Karen Padritis. Thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. Do you think the name Karen, anytime it could be like the sweetest Mother Teresa lady, but do you think just because they have the name Karen, it carries that stigma of,
I feel like
you're a
yes,
complainer?
it has dropped down in popularity. Um, I mean, there's certain names when you think of you hear names, you're like you think of certain characteristics on both men and women, and if your name is Karen now, it's just it just sucks. I mean, people instantly think like, oh no, like she's gonna complain or whatever the hell the case might be. But yeah, I don't think it's as popular as it used to be.
Right. Yeah, maybe in the future. I don't think it's gonna have like the stigma of like Adolf, where you can't name your kid Adolf anymore.
Hmm.
But I'm sure this Karen's outstanding because she liked and subscribed to our podcast. So thank you.
Hopefully,
But
we don't get a complaint from her.
right.
Can I speak to your
But
manager?
exactly. But let's jump into the week, Andy. I see here you finally got caught up with the whole news, cycles, and it's been kind of in your face in these last couple weeks. All this 9/11 retread. It's been 20 years, so I know it's probably like one of those moniker times. It's usually like 5, 10, 15, 20. They make a bigger impact into getting out there into the news. So what kind of stuff have you been watching, or have you just been just observing it from afar?
So the whole week, leading up to 9/11, just to for the listeners that we do have, I mean, they know me and you, Danny. We're Generation Xers, so we grew up in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and When 9/11 happened, I was in my early 20s, and from that day forward, I remember, you know, from my experience, I was going to work and hearing the radio of what driving to work when this was all going on, and then 20 years later to look back, to see where we are now from that day, from 20 years ago. It's just like I still remember it vividly. I remember that fucking day, that morning, and the America that we kind of grew up with, and like what it is now. It's like that fucking. I pinpointed it. It all starts that day, because America. We had that wave of like popularism, nationalism. America, USA, and it lasted for a little bit, but then it just from there, it's like never really been the same. And I think I mean, you would agree with that, Danny. I mean, the uh, just that from that day to where we are now with the wars and politics and the division in this country and the generation that came after us, the millennials, and then to this new one, Generation Z. It's just it's unbelievable that what I saw is growing up into where we are now. I kind of pinpoint it all back to 9/11.
Right. Yeah, man. I think this is a little still, yeah, just these thoughts that are kind of flowing through my head. So, apologies if it's kind of rambling, but I've also been reflecting a lot back in these past 20 plus years or whatever. And I agree, man. I think it was a real pivotal point to a change in the way the United States is perceived and the way United States actually is. And I really don't know how to feel with it. I'm like I mentioned, I been reading some new stuff. I've been watching some new documentaries. Um, and it's really making me question, what did I think back then 20 years ago and what do I think now? Um, like you mentioned, Andy, 20 years ago, man, I felt really patriotic. I felt really like gun ho. America, we got to stand together. We got to get these guys. We got to do everything within our means. Nothing is outside of the scope of, we got to make retributions for what they did to us. But now coming back 20 years, I don't know if I thought about it correctly, man. I don't know if I still feel that way.
Well, we're older, so yeah. As you get older, your from your 20s, your mindset is we matured more. I mean, I hope I did, but yeah, you had a different mindset than what you have. Is you're older in your 40s with we're married. You have a family. We have mortgages now. We have bills. We have people to take care of. In your 20s, it was all about you and like fuck this. I'm gonna do what I want. You live paycheck to paycheck. You go Friday night to Saturday. You did whatever the fuck because that's what you do in your 20s. And then like uh, so it's just a different mindset and like if I mean, I still had some views that I still hold today, but a lot of the views I had back then are probably not going to be what I have now. But you know, going back to the 9/11 and reflecting, I try to avoid it because for a while I was really obsessed about it. I told my wife, like, she was asking me like, "What do you think about it?" I'm like, I don't want to get too deep into it because for a while, there was a couple years like back in YouTube's early days, like I was fucking obsessed, man. I was watching like a ton of videos, the theories, the inside job talk, and the more you looked into it, and you get sucked down like that YouTube rabbit hole, man. And then, Alex Jones's views on it, and you started hearing all sorts of crazy stuff, and it's just you would just get upset about it, and then you realize that A lot of people died in the towers. People were jumping off. The the fire department, the first responders, and then leading up to that, we were, in Afghanistan and then Iraq, and then you look at how Afghanistan ended, like it's like not even a month ago, and it's just like what a fucking mess. Like America is just like Jesus, and then the whole time, they don't talk about it, but after 9/11, I mean, I just started at the job and like there was layoffs. I've never experienced layoffs. There was like this recession, and I was just like, this is like, well, back then it was just like, well, fuck it, I'm 20, and like I just bought a new vehicle, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna pay this truck off, but it's just like a whole ton of emotions, and then you looking at now, watching all the videos, uh, seeing like how I was reading today that some of the uh, families of 9/11 didn't want Biden there, and I was just like the president of the United States, whatever you feel about Biden, he's still the president. And then they're more vocal. A lot of people didn't want him there. And then the speeches. I heard clips of the speeches. It got a little politicized. I was like, come on, dudes, like we could be more civil than this. And it just brought whole back a range of emotions that I was just like, yeah, I don't want to get really too much into it. I just wanted to talk about that day I went to work. I just remember I didn't want to be there. I couldn't watch the news. All I did was hear radio. And then finally someone at work showed me the plane crash, because it wasn't like it is now. And I remember watching like that little clip of it, and I was like, man, this is fucked up. And like it was like I just didn't want to be at work that day. And we had to stay there and work, and then like just going home and watching the news and just like not looking away, just be standing just staring at the TV watching news. And I was just like, man, like growing up, how we really didn't have wars. We had skirmishes and stuff like that. um it's just like unreal.
Yeah, I mean, like I was mentioning, Andy, I'm honestly questioning whether I was thinking about it correctly, just because I was watching it with kind of like a wider lens instead of being in the moment. And I'm thinking a lot of, I honestly think George Bush was a good president. Maybe not great, but a good president. But now, in retrospect, watching some of his moves and some of the things that he did, I'm starting to question whether he was that good of a president, or at least the perspective that I had. Like the whole Iraq thing, to me, I'm questioning whether we needed to get involved at all with that. I I mean, I really am just questioning a lot of things, and put aside all the it was an inside job. The U.S. had a hand in 9/11 and whatnot. Putting all that aside, it's really got me questioning whether, because of the Iraq War and because of our involvement with that create this split that we kind of see today, where there's the red side and the blue side, and depending on what side you're in, you're like entrenched in that side, and you're not even viewing the points of the other side. And I don't know, man. I don't know if, because of that, and because of maybe it being blatantly, or at least in my perspective, like an incorrect move at the time, that maybe it started some of that, man. And I don't know if that was like the fork in the road, kind of like you mentioned, how 9/11 changed the United States for the future.
I personally believe it did, because I mean, like I said, I was in my early 20s. I was kind of a news junkie back then. I would watch the news a lot, and there was the usual nonsense, you know, uh, the economy. Everybody was, because we just came out of that dot com fucking bubble burst, the housing. stuff, the economy, and jobs. People were working, but the usual, just like we got to take care of people, the usual stuff, like the bread and butter of political talk. And then that happened, and then like a switch flipped, and I just remember, like, the Patriot Act came out of that, and like wow,
Right.
this is like kind of invasive here, but okay. And then it just evolved from there, and they kept extending it, and then we got into Iraq, and then it just morphed into something, and then you had Bush, like, which I kind of liked. I go, he wasn't the best, but you know, he was all right. And then you got Obama, kind of like, okay, this guy's gonna end the wars, and that never really happened. If anything, he sent more troops, and then it's just like, and like, and all it was like 9/11, 9/11, and then we get farther and farther away from that, and here we are to this day. But like I said, the early on, I was watching early days of YouTube, just a bunch of stuff, and getting upset, and then you just go down some weird conspiracy stuff with everybody involved, the deep state, and it just, I kind of stopped. Like, there was a couple years I was just watching all sorts of documentaries, and then it got to a point where, like, I'm like 2 years after that, I'm like, I'm fucking done watching all this stuff, because it's just like, I guess it's because we got attacked, and America being like, we got all this shit, but it was just like, oh man, it
We
sucks.
we got all what shit?
We got like all this military might,
Oh, okay.
but we got people who run it is like incompetent, and or they don't know how to really use it, and you know, and it's and then it's just the what came out of it, the investigation, the 9/11. That book was really, that investigation was not really good. And then you read later that there was a lot of people testifying, and they didn't include that in the report, talking about like insider stuff. And it's just like, man, like, what are they covering up? And that's why I said I got to a point where, like, because I was so emotionally invested. It's just like, I don't even think we're ever gonna get a fucking straight answer of, besides these terrorists hijacked some planes and they flew into them, like, 9/11, the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, um the field one right in Pennsylvania or whatever. And then I was watching Giuliani, kind of remembering yesterday, talking about when he did the walk assessing the problem, and his one of his guys told him, he asked him how many planes are unaccounted for. He goes, 7. He was worried that they were gonna attack like more stuff in New York, and obviously that, I mean, as far as we know, I don't know, but that, I never heard that number before. That was 7 planes still unaccounted for, and they were worried about like secondary attacks, like, which there everybody was kind of worried about. And then it's just like more information like trickles out, for me anyway, because like I said, I haven't really delved into that problem, or not problem. I haven't really delved into that 9/11 stuff in a long time.
Yeah, it really makes me think, how will the future history books depict all this? How will they put this so that juniors kids will be able to learn this event, and how's the narrative going to be? Is it going to show America being triumphant? It's going to show the errors of the ways. Is it going to show, that, they came like a thief in the night, and we didn't know anything about it, or that it was a fumble between the CIA, the FBI, between all these agencies? Like, how is it going to be? How's the history going to remember all
Well,
this?
if it's written by with the current climate that we have in America, is going to say America kind of deserved all that. So I mean,
Right.
it's interesting to see what happens in the next 5-10 years, because I don't want to get too out of it, but the history, if we don't want to learn history, over time shows history always repeats itself. And as much of these people today that do not want to talk about certain aspects of history regarding this country and other parts of the world, they just focus on some certain negativity or negative things. And if that's all they're obsessed about, they're fucking missing out on a wealth of history and knowledge that which we can learn from in the past to things that are going on right now. And but they're consumed by like certain things, and it's just like that's all they focus on. And if you look at other things that's happened in the past in the world, in like Europe and Asia, here in the United States, you're gonna see some of this shit's repeating itself. But they just focus on certain things, and that's all they're obsessed about.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point. A lot of the documentaries that I was watching, I watched like two or three. There was one that kind of favored the red, kind of America was in the right.
Yeah.
We did what we needed to. We needed to put all of our force, like you mentioned, we had this great military force. We needed to put it all behind this endeavor. And then I watched two of them where it was more on the blue side, and they spoke a lot about the errors that we did, and some of the missteps that we did, some of the assumptions that we took that might have cost lives, might have cost our perspective in the whole battle. So yeah, man, it's gonna be weird to see how this all plays out in the future. um we're kind of running across some of that with like the Christopher Columbus stuff, and it's been for the past few years where do we even recognize him as being like this great adventurer, coming to
Explorer.
explorer coming to an unknown land, or do we see him as this villainous person? And it's weird to see how the future is going to really
I
read this.
You brought up Columbus. Then I was actually uh, eh, say what you will about Columbus. The man was an explorer, but I found out this tidbit about him that I didn't know. So when he traveled looking for the New World, one of the things that I read, there was like this paragraph about he brought Jewish people with him on his voyage. And I asked myself why. Like, I mean, like it was just weird. Like, oh, he brought Jewish people who spoke Hebrew and this and that. And the reason behind that was because he thought when he goes to this new world, he thought he could possibly run into uh, some of the lost tribes of Israel. And I never heard this before, and that kind of like made my jaw drop. So and he knew he was going for the new world, but in his mind, I guess he thought he might run into some old Israelis or something like in the new world, because he in his thought process, he thought he might find some Jewish people. I was
Wow.
kind of shocked by that. I didn't even know that.
That'd be crazy, running across like old Moses buddies and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because you know about the lost tribes of Israel, right? They just left or something, and he thought maybe if he was going there, he might find some. So that was an interesting. That was something new I never heard about. But I did get asked a question about Robert E. Lee, how they took down his statue. Uh, this guy, he fought for the Confederacy, but if you read some stuff about him, he was a graduate of West Point. He was in the U.S. Army. He gave his resignation and he became the general of the Virginia Army. And you read about him. This guy was he was well educated. He went to West Point. He wasn't really rich. He was this poor. He wasn't well off. I just found out that he married somebody related to George Washington's family. He never owned slaves, but when he married this woman, she owned slaves, so he kind of like inherited all the slaves, and he was like was the man of the house. At that time he had to manage all that. But the whole time he was fighting the North, he was trying to try to find the ways to negotiate uh, with the North about with the Confederate about for a peace deal, which I never knew that. And the guy is not. I know that because he fought for slaves. I'm kind of on the edge, on the fence about it. I know he technically he is a traitor, but I was reading that when he surrendered a couple months later, the U.S. asked him to sign an oath to the United States of America, and then he went on to become like this uh, a college like a dean or something, and he managed a college, and he's buried there with his wife, and it was kind of an interesting read. And then after he died, that's when this legend grew about him because he kind of got forgotten after the Civil War, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm the headmaster, the dean over here, managing this little college in the South," and he went on to he did some. He was kind of a progressive, and he built he wanted people to be like educated, and when he passed away, that's when this legend around General Lee came about. Like because everybody that knew him said great things. He was a gentleman. He wasn't big on wars and stuff, and it was just kind of an interesting read. But on the other side, yeah, he was technically a traitor. Yeah, that's correct, and he fought against the U.S. and he lost.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the saying that my parents have. In Mexico, you could be this great man, help all these people, be doing all these great things for the community. But as soon as you kill the first dog, and they label you in Spanish as mata perro, but a dog killer, that's what you're going to be known for the rest of your life. This one atrocity, and it doesn't matter all this good stuff that you did. And history proves that over and over again. I mean, any person that's kind of been seen in a negative light, what if they were like these great men before that event? Should they be judged by this one action that they did as opposed to all the years of, being a good person? I don't know. It's kind of difficult, and it's easier to just, banish these people. And I think that's kind of what maybe you're alluding to with this
So
Robert.
yeah, I mean, going back to the 9/11 at the time, to Rudy Giuliani, who was the mayor of New York, he was celebrated the way he handled the crisis. He was revered, um, and to how he's treated, how he handled that whole situation, right? Which is, uh,
He was like a
uh
hero.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was a hero. He managed it. He was being a leader, and to way how now he's vilified in the press today because he aligned himself with Trump, and the issues with the election, and now he's like persona non grata, like fuck him, he's a fucking loser, blah blah blah. Nobody wants to talk to him. Nobody wants to deal with him. But at that time, that's all these kids, like I'm talking about, that came after us. That's all they know is like, oh fuck him. He aligned himself with Trump. He's a mega guy. But they refuse. I don't want to say refuse. They need to look at why he got to the point and the way he handled that. Even before that, when he was a lawyer taking down mafia people. Like this guy is an accomplished person, but all they know now is, oh fuck him. He aligned himself with Trump, and he disagreed with the election results. And like, yeah, that's all they know him for. And they're like, man, you guys are just like, you have no fucking idea. Like I always said, like just don't focus on the one thing. Read about the whole person's, you know, especially world leaders. If you read about them and you see how they got to the point, like why did Lee get a fucking statue? Like, does anybody think that? And you read about him, Yeah, but I understand he was a fucking traitor. But like I always say, the communities in the United States set if that's acceptable in that community to a certain point, yeah, if that's what the community wants, then hey, that's what they want. Even though some
Right.
people might agree, I know it's a double edged sword sometimes, but that's how it is.
Right. Yeah, man. It's funny that you mentioned the Giuliani thing too, because I had seen a documentary maybe a year or so ago about how they took the mafia out of New York
Yeah,
when they first were entrenched
hmm
there, and Giuliani was a part of that. He
yeah,
was a part of helping that. And it's like you said, now you just look at that guy and he's automatically a villain because he was with Trump. Good or bad, I really don't know the man's character too well. You know, he does look kind of on the shady side to me, but
that's
I
racist, man.
I don't well, I'm not talking about his hair color running and that's why he looks shady. I just saying, just my perspective from not knowing the guy personally or not even knowing him
What you
that
know of him
closely.
publicly,
Yeah,
yes.
he just gives me like a weird vibe, like he might be into some shady stuff. But I don't know. I don't know enough about him. But you're right. He did a lot of great stuff, and now he's a bad guy. Right or wrong, that's up to people to decide.
Yeah, and like I said, he is an accomplished person. His he excelled at during managing that attack, and getting everything going and clearing up and like to some effect he cleaned up New York a little bit. Some people called him a monster the way he did it, but the New York you see now with the big corporate things, that's all because of Giuliani. But again, read up on him. I mean, today's world, it's so divided. I mean, all they gonna know? Oh, fuck him. He was a Trump, and his accomplishments and everything he's done is just fucking dismissed. But yeah. I mean, let us know if you got some personal experiences or your thoughts on 9/11. Like I said early on, yeah, when I was in my 20s, yeah, man, it's like let's go kick some ass, let's bomb some motherfuckers, do what we got to do. But you look at it now, and you're just like, yeah, man, like I don't know if that's the right thing, but I guess at the time it had to be done. But if you guys had your thoughts on 9/11 or had some personal tragedy or experiences with it, let us know at ffnquestions@gmail.com. And we would like to hear that because everybody, especially those people affected on ground zero, is just like they obviously would have a different view than I would seeing from here from Chicago and what was going on in New York. So let's change it up a little bit, man. Let's go. Let's lighten the mood up here. I see Danny's still watching some movies. I see he watched a movie with The Rock. Does The Rock hold up in this movie? What the fuck was he blowing up, Danny?
Yeah, I watched Disney's Jungle Cruise.
Oh man, he
Um,
didn't blow up shit. It sounds like.
I think it has a longer name than Jungle Cruise. I forget it's got like this longer ass shit, but yeah, Jungle Cruise by Disney. And I read some of the reviews. I had gotten a copy of it, but I didn't initially watch it right away. Just because I heard a lot of shitty reviews, man. I heard a lot of people
Yeah,
crapping on it. Heard a lot of people like bashing on it. But a little bit of time passed, and I'm just like, it's The Rock. It's a Disney movie. How bad can it be? It's probably okay. Who
it is
knows?
a remake. You know that, right?
Oh, is it? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. No, I didn't know that. So I started watching it with the family, and Junior liked it. He liked the movie. He likes The Rock, and he still likes those bubblegum movies, happy-go-lucky Disney stuff. My wife is the one that kind of didn't like it, and surprisingly, man, because she usually loves the Rock movies. She likes those big muscle bound, the Rock, what's a Vin Diesel, stuff like that. She loves like this big muscle head guys just going and kicking ass. And Jungle Cruise was kind of a slower pace, more narrative. There are some action pieces and some big, set pieces, but I liked it. I liked it. I don't think it was the greatest movie ever. I don't think it's something where it's gonna go win and sweep the Oscars or anything like that. But for what it is, for it being a Disney movie, it's got that um the Caribbean movies. What are those called? Jack Sparrow's
Yeah, the pirates.
Pirates of the Caribbean. It's got like that kind of vibe, like
Well, yeah.
an adventure, mystical, mystery, this big underlying story, but with these action pieces, it's got that kind of feel.
So just real quick, Danny, I misspoke. So the Jungle Cruise is actually a ride in Disneyland, I believe, and the movie is somewhat inspired by the African Queen. That's the Humphrey Bogart movie. That's what I was thinking about. But doing a little quick fact check, the movie is inspired the Jungle Cruise ride, and then they made the movie off the Jungle Cruise, just like Pirates of the Caribbean was made off of a ride at Disneyland.
Wow, holy smokes. So the first, from the little bit that we know, so first Disney creates this entertainment ride and then
Mm-hmm.
decides, let's spin it off and make a movie out of this
Yeah.
thing. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Which was based on the movie the Jungle Queen,
Wow. Holy
or the
smokes.
African Queen. I apologize, the African Queen.
Cool, man. Well, I mean, to the movie, I think it was good. I think The Rock did good. I think it's kind of typecasting him into being this like muscle bound, I'm a guide. I'm, going to take these people through this, difficult situation and be the hero of the situation because the people around me are kind of weak, kind of thing. It's got like that. And I think
I'm the alpha.
I think he's being typecast as stuff like that because a lot of his movies follow that formula. Um, but yeah, man, not too much to say about the movie other than I enjoyed it for what it is. I think as long as you don't go into it with like these huge expectations, I think you'll be okay with it.
So would you recommend it then?
I would recommend it. I think it's if you like the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, if you typically like watching the rock stuff, I think this is right up that alley. It's kind of a hybrid of stuff like that, and I found it enjoyable. I liked it. Nothing great, but it was a good 2 hours of my time. I probably wouldn't rewatch it again just because I got my fill. But if they had a sequel, I might tune in and see what they're up to.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but just something else quick. I'm still in the hunt for a truck, Andy, and
Good luck.
yeah, I know. I think I mentioned it a few months back that I kind of started looking, and I kind of discouraged from getting one just because it was so difficult to find one, and then dealers weren't willing to make any deals because I think they saw the landscape as far as the limited run of trucks and vehicles or whatever you're looking for. So they knew they had you by the balls. They're like, you can't go to many places to find a vehicle. So whatever we have, you're gonna pay what we ask you to pay for it. There's no making deals kind of thing. And that kind of rubbed me a little wrong when it happened when I was first looking at the beginning of the year. So needless to say, I went back out there, hit the market again, started looking, and the story is about the same, if not
Is it
even
even
a
gotten
little
worse?
worse. Yeah, if not, yeah, a little worse. To where at least back then, all right, these are the five that are coming in next week. Do you like any of them, kind of thing? Now, yeah, we don't even have any coming in, and we're not expecting to have any within the next 30 to 90 days. So it's day to day. We'll see what we get in. Usually we get in two every week. So we'll let you know, kind of thing.
Are they saying it's because of a chip shortage or labor issues or material issues? I mean, everybody, I think, in all industries are experiencing some type of shortages.
Yeah, I think it's all of that, to be honest, because he did make mention that the actual plant that fabricates the cars, they shut down for 90 days because they were short on materials, chips,
Jesus.
labor. So they just decided to minimize the bleeding and just shut the factory down for 90 days so they wouldn't have to pay for overhead for employees and whatnot. And once they turn that switch back on, they're hoping that some of the shortages will be replenished to the point where they could actually fabricate vehicles again. But yeah, man, it's not looking good. I'm starting to second guess myself if I should have bought something back then in the day, but I just couldn't do it knowing that I couldn't get a deal, man, where they didn't want to budge for nothing. They were just like, no, this is the price. We can get you maybe a free coffee mug. And then I was just like, man, get your coffee mug out of here. I don't want that shit. It's,
Yeah, it's even used vehicles. There's been an upswing in price. I was reading. Um, so yeah, it's like how it was with the housing market. Like earlier in the year, people they weren't building new homes because of the material cost. So people were just buying older homes, and that's why they're being snatched up so quickly. And you kind of went through that, and it's just I think we probably won't start seeing supply chain stuff go to normal to like I'm hoping by early next year, the first quarter of next year.
uh, man, I don't want to be, I try to be optimistic. I was hoping that by this time this year things would start improving. But you're right, man. Things look kind of grim. Uh, and I'm reading some places that say we might not see a significant improvement until second quarter, maybe even third quarter of next year.
Yeah.
And if that's true, dude, man, that's it's scary.
So all those people, not to change subject, if you're thinking like Christmas, going to the stores, the shelves might be bare, not bare, but I think you're gonna run into issues getting certain things. It's gonna be limited supply, and I don't think the stores like in the pre-pandemic were like we're never gonna close. It's fucking 1 week till Christmas. You ain't gonna see none of that shit because I don't think they're gonna have enough workers. Like you go to certain stores right now, it's kind of bare in certain things. I mean, we went to Kohl's last weekend to return. My wife bought some stuff to return it, and the store was kind of wasn't like with people I'm talking about. They didn't have a lot of inventory. It was kind of weird to see, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree, man. When they put a limit on how many tortillas you can buy, there's a problem, dude. There's something going
Yeah,
on.
that too in the Latino community,
Hell yeah.
tortillas is our lifeblood. I mean, and they have a cap, and like, I mean, me and you, Danny, we're a little bit more. We have a little bit more knowledge on nutrition, but the tried and
Right.
true like six dozen tortillas or whatever, like man, they could go through that shit in one setting. If you got a family of four, that's each family could eat about a whole dozen. It's each person could eat 1 dozen each. So what are you gonna do with two? I mean, it's getting kind of hectic.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are heavy duty tortilla eaters. They buy. I would take estimate. I'd have to ask them because I don't live in their house and I haven't lived in their house in a while. But I would say at least 6 to 12 dozens a week. But I don't eat nothing close to that because, like you mentioned, Andy, tortillas are bad for you. So I buy a dozen and it lasts me like 3 weeks, a month, kind of thing. I don't nearly go through as many tortillas as my parents do.
Yeah. So I bought some arracheras for Labor Day, and when I was buying them, I went to check out the tortillas, and they didn't have none of the brand that I usually get. They had some fucking cardboard looking ones I've never heard of, some brand, and I bought them, and like, damn, those things were kind of rough. But hey, man, you gotta do what I'm like. Yeah, these it was like one of those 3-pack blancas, but it wasn't even the blancas. It was some off brand, and I took those, and man, those were like fucking eating cardboard.
Yeah, man. It's getting back to the trucks and chips, and I think it's gonna be rough, man. Another little side note: I was at Sam's Club the other day, and they had just one person working the whole cafeteria section, making
Yeah,
pizzas, making the hot dogs, doing the yogurts. It was just one person doing it, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ! This is usually like a big money maker for like Sam's and Costco. And people, for whatever reason, they love to eat there. And it's usually like two or three people working it. It's like a conveyor belt. It's just like food after food after food. It was just one person. I was just like, man, are they having difficulty hiring people?
yeah,
Is it that Sam's Club maybe it's just like we could only afford to have one person back there because we're tightening the belt kind of thing. I'm like, I bet you it's a combination of a bunch of things. But yeah, man. Hopefully this rebounds. Hopefully supplies become more plentiful, and hopefully, man, we get out of this because it sounds like people have somewhat money to spend in certain aspects. We just need the products, and we just need the workers, and we just need the things out there for people to go out there and get it. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll have to see. But just like everything, I think it's time for our article of the week. So, Andy, this article for this week, um, Apple is at it again, man. They're taking over the world. Them and Bezos, man. They're slowly between them two. They're just going to take over the world. But this article is about how Apple announces the first states that will start accepting digital versions of your driver's license on your iPhone, iPad, or whatever device you have. But yeah, they're working with a few states. The article makes mention of 8 states, including Arizona, Connecticut, Georgia, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Oklahoma, Utah. These country or these states are starting to work with Apple as far as accepting these digital IDs. And I know, Andy, you're a big person of trying to keep your digital footprint kind of low. I mean, I don't even know if you have one yet, but I know you were a big guy of not getting iPass to pay the
I still don't
tolls.
have one.
You
Yeah.
still don't? Yeah.
No.
So I know you're not a big person of getting Alexa in the house and getting her
No.
to listen. There she is listening to me just because I mentioned her name. So how do you feel about this thing, man? How do you feel about the do you see it as a convenience? Do you see it as a potential problem
Well,
coming in the
it's
future?
it's a definitely it's a convenience, but it's just like you're giving your information. I mean, you already have a lot of your information. Our most valuable asset as of today, it's our personal information, and companies use it and sell it. And now you're giving them your license, which is like, yeah, definitely it's gonna be a convenience. It's just like, yeah, now you got to get the phone, the wallet. I don't use Apple Pay or any of that shit. I still, if I have cash, I still whip it out, and some people look at you weird. I don't. I still bust out my card. Even that. I mean, but the the Zells and the WhatsApp and all this cash. I mean, there's so many now. I can't even keep up. PayPal seems like a fucking dinosaur now. Um, I just it, it's becoming to a point where fuck, man, I don't know. And like I don't know what the states. I saw some of the states that were in here in the Midwest, like Iowa and in Kentucky. It's just like they did a little circle around us, and being the way how the state is here, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I probably wouldn't do it. I don't do any of those infos on the phone. Because it's a bit too much for me being how old I am, growing up the way I did. It's just to me it's fucking strange, and I don't like it. And to me, so let's say someone hacks your phone or some other shit, or they hack. I mean, they already hacked the iCloud all the fucking time. Now we got this shit on there, all your credit card info and your name, address, and all this other bullshit. It's gonna be that's where I'm like, Jesus, like this is you're putting everything on your phone, and you're giving it to. the people of Silicon Valley, and they're gonna have everything on you. All they need left is like your birth certificate and shit, and your social.
Right. I mean, if any company is really going to do it, I do kind of trust Apple. I think they, for the most part, have a pretty secure network. They keep a lot of your information private. I'm constantly getting notifications on my phone that, hey, this app wants to track you. Do you want to let them track you? And I always click no. Um,
It's
hey,
because that
this,
they got sued a couple times. That's why they
right,
had to do it.
right. No, but needless to say, they're doing it, and
Yes.
there's a lot of prompts that tell me, hey, this thing wants to see where you're at and wants location. Do you want to let them? And I'm always like, no. So it's constantly pinging me and telling me these things. But to me, I feel that that's more secure because now it's advising me that this app is trying to get information out of me. And I feel like if any company was going to do something like this, I wouldn't mind it if it was Apple. Now, unlike you, Andy, I do have a lot of modern digital stuff to make my life easier. I do have an iPass. I do have uh, this chick listening to me in the house, so that when I tell her, hey, what's the weather like outside, she listens to me. So yeah, I kind of live with stuff like that and I don't mind it. I do have a digital wallet for paying stuff. Now, granted, sometimes it's a little more hassle when your hands are full. It might be easier to just have the card handy and just swipe it into the card reader. But yeah, I've used digital wallet in the past. I think we used it the other day where I had forgotten my wallet.
Yeah, we went to
We
lunch. I saw you use it, which I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we went out to lunch and I forgot my wallet, and it was like my turn to pay for lunch. So I'm like, oh shit, Andy, I forgot. And you're like, oh yeah, good. Now I'm gonna have to pay.
It's like that
And
commercial.
right, but then I saw I had Apple Pay, and I'm like, oh shit, I could pay here. They got Apple Pay,
It's
so I
the
pay.
mark of the beast. But
Yeah,
it's I yes, it's definitely gonna make life a lot easier. So I'm looking at the article. It says adding the IDs to the wallet app works similarly to uploading credit cards and transit passes. Apple said once users scan the ID, they will also be asked to complete facial and head movements as additional security measure. After tapping their mobile ID at identity readers in airports, users must approve a note from the TSA using their Face ID or Touch ID. The company says the customer data is encrypted and protected against tampering and theft, and that the ID can only be viewed by the owner. So, yeah, we kind of heard this stuff before, and stuff like this always it's people take it as a challenge, and they're gonna get into your stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be pretty well encrypted, but um, it's still another risk, man, of your information just getting out there. I text messages from a number claiming to be AT&T, and like, oh, we got your payment, Andy. Please click here because for paying on time, click on this link. And I'm just like, first of all, I know it's bullshit because the AT&T text messages are usually 6 digits, and these are like full numbers. And now they have my name. I don't even know how they got my name. And then second of all, the plan we're under is under my wife's name, not me. So like, damn, this shit's getting like sophisticated, and I just imagine like older people, senior citizens are not so astute on tech, this kind of stuff, how they might get tricked easily. So I hope I never come to that point, but just like every once in a while at work, I'm cutting a check out, and one of my coworkers is busting my boss. You still write checks? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, hey man, fuck it. It's an old school way of just making sure there's a record of me paying or something, you know?
yeah. I was gonna ask you that. Are you still paying checks like for
Yeah.
like the water
So
bill and the gas
the
bill?
water bills and all my utilities, I pay on their website. And they use third party like payment platforms. My one credit card that I do have, which is an Amazon Prime Chase credit card, I still fucking write a check to Jeff Bezos on that one, and I mailed it. And One day I'm hoping he signs the check, but it never does. They do an ACH, which is like electronic transfer, and it just as soon as I mail it like one day, and within 2 days, then that thing is they're already taking the money out of the bank.
Wow. Yeah. I can't even tell you when's the last time I wrote out a check. Um, it's been a while. I think actually it was for like junior school uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that, whew, man, it must have been a long while, maybe like a good year and a half.
Dude, it's when we opened the checking account when I got married. I was waiting for the lady to like, you get your debit card. I'm like, they give you some like 10 free checks or something. And I'm like, can I order checks? She's like, I don't even want to sell it to you. Just go to like one of the websites or something, or go to Walmart. They sell checks too. I'm just like, they weren't even pushing that shit. So we had to log in. I forgot what website we used. And we just bought like a shitload of checks that one time. I haven't even gone through one of the stacks yet. I think I'm like maybe halfway through because I write at least one check a month.
Wow, holy smokes! Yeah, so you people like that still exist out there, I guess. But no, man, I'm all for the convenience. I gotta feel safe, obviously, but I am all for that convenience. It's coming. It's a digital age. I use my phone for everything. Actually, while I was mentioning that story at Sam's Club, Alana was sitting down at one of the benches while we were getting our food. And when I finally got to her, because we got our pizza or whatever it was that we were buying, she's just like, I can't find my phone. And we got to the car and it had fallen out and was sitting on her chair. So, anyways, we're driving back and she's just like, I could see like her hands were like clutching that phone, like she didn't want to lose it ever again. And I told her, I'm like, whoa, is it scary? And she's just like, I don't know. I just got like this weird feeling like, oh my God, my life is going to change if I don't have this phone next to me. And I'm
The
like, yeah,
hell,
that's,
you
well,
love
kind of like, you're
you love
not going
that
to
thing
feel
more than
complete.
me.
Like, you're not going to feel complete anymore without
Well,
it, like,
it's part of daily life now. I mean,
right,
like when I was talking about 9/11, I had going to work. Distinctly remember the phone I had at that time. It was a flip phone with I still had the Nextel thing with it. Like, when's the last time you heard that? You remember Nextel, the chirp?
right,
That's the phone that I had at that time. And like to think about it then to where we are now, that's fucking ages ago now, and it's almost a quarter of a century. And where we're now at now, and you look at your phones in the way we are, it's just like it's unbelievable, and more stuff is getting put into your phones, and if you lose it, you're fucking screwed. And like your wife went through, you have that panic and like, oh shit. It's not that you're worried about you're gonna break into my phone. I mean, it's rather difficult. It can be done, but all the shit that you have in there and all that stuff that you have in there is just like fuck. I gotta do all this shit to get me up and running, because you use it for everything now.
right. I wonder what is more difficult, the thought of losing your phone or the thought of losing your wallet. Because I know when I lost my wallet the one time, I thought my world was gonna end, man. Because I got so much shit in there that's important, and it was chaotic. And I wonder nowadays what is more chaotic, losing your wallet or losing your phone.
Was it like that Constanza wallet, all fucking thick and stuff?
No, not that bad, but I did have like your license, your credit cards, your
Receipts.
insurance card. I might have had a receipt or two, some business cards of like doctors, and I just had a bunch of stuff in there that is important. My insurance card, my debit card for my insurance, my flex spending, and it's just like when I lost that, man, it was just like Jesus Christ, a piece of me is dead. So, yeah, for sure.
So perish the thought, but we have to end this episode for this week. So we want to thank everybody for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Also, send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let us know what you guys think about the article with the digital IDs. Is this something Freeform listeners are gonna sign up to, and let us know, or what your thoughts on 9/11, or the Jungle Cruise. You can check out our webpage at freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There, you're gonna see the links to our multiple platforms. They're all on the webpage. You could, Podbean, Stitcher. There's so many now, I can't keep up, but Dan keeps us on the loop and all that. And for whatever platform you're using, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. That helps us. That helps us with all the algorithms and all that nonsense. But also on YouTube, make sure you're on there, subscribe, comment too. We'd like being there on too, and that helps us out too. So for Freeform Radio, we got Danny.
Yes, sir. Football is starting up, man. Exciting. Can't wait to watch the Bears. So some football talk coming soon, maybe.
And we got all good Andy here. We want to thank y'all for listening. Yeah, I mean, football is back. I've been watching some college football and ready for some pro football. The Thursday night game was pretty good. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll catch you all guys next time.
That was cool, Dad.